you were referring to the testimony of James Comey vindicating you. But I wondered if you could tell us in person, sir, why you feel that his testimony vindicated you when it's really boils down to his word against your word. And if you could also tell us, sir, do tapes exist of your conversations with him?
Well, I'll tell you about that maybe sometime in the very near future. But in the meantime, no collusion, no obstruction. He's a leaker, but we want to get back to running our great country.
That was President Trump on Friday. He's renewing that criticism of FBI Director James Comey today during a series of morning tweets. The president is spending the weekend at his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey, which has been dubbed the Summer White House. Our Errol Barnett is traveling with the president this weekend. He's just across the town line in Branchburg, New Jersey. So, Errol, what has the president been tweeting about Sunday?
Well, Elaine, the president is online and back on the attack. He seems to be suggesting in a series of tweets this morning that he wants credit for the state of the U.S. economy, and he's attacking the mainstream media and Democrats, typical targets for the president. On the economy, he's citing these details. He wrote, quote, Dow up 16%, NASDAQ up 19.5%, drilling and energy sector way up, regulations down, 600,000 jobs added, unemployment down to 4.3%. What's interesting is that the unemployment numbers, for example, were the type of information and data that as a candidate, Donald Trump said was false during the Obama administration. So it's interesting that today he wants to point to those same facts as things he should be given credit for. He goes on, though, to directly criticize former FBI Director James Comey in saying, quote, I believe the James Comey leaks will be far more prevalent than anyone ever thought possible. Totally illegal, he asks, and then describes Comey as very cowardly. So these criticisms coming from the president this morning, as clearly the top news story is Comey's testimony, where he said under oath that the president encouraged him to drop the investigation into Mike Flynn and asked Comey for his loyalty. The president went on to call the Democrats obstructionists, perhaps looking for an excuse for why his legislative agenda has stalled in Congress, although Republicans, his party, enjoys majorities in both the House and the Senate. As far as the existence of tapes, which the president teased on Friday to the White House press, there is a growing feeling of suspicion that perhaps these tapes don't really exist, and that's because previously the president had teased an investigation into the birth certificate of President Obama. He had claimed that he would release his tax returns if and when he ran for president. And those teases, we should say, never came to light. No proof was ever shown. And of course, the president's tax returns have never been released. But this morning, as usual, the president is back in form on the attack on Twitter.
Well, Errol, on the James Comey testimony, let's play a clip of the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., on Fox News last night.
I hear the Flynn comment. You and I both know my father a long time.
Well,
when he tells you to do something,
yes,
guess what? There's no ambiguity in it. There's no, hey, I'm hoping. You and I are friends. Hey, I hope this happens, but you got to do your job. That's what he told Comey.
Is the president's son confirming James Comey's version of events here?
Well, it certainly seems as though, Elaine, and what's interesting, if you just step back and look at who is backing up the president's version of events and who is backing up the FBI director, the only person who does not believe that what James Comey said was true is the president himself. And so when you show that clip of his own son saying, yes, when the president, when Donald Trump asks for something, you know that it's something you're supposed to do. He's confirming what James Comey described in his Senate testimony, which was that he felt very uncomfortable to be with the president alone and then being encouraged to let the investigation go. What is an also unanswered question is why the president cleared the room of Attorney General Jeff Sessions and his White House staff to speak to former Director Comey in the White House, and those questions have yet to be answered. So unfortunately for the president, his own family now is adding to the suspicion that perhaps what the president said at the White House Rose Garden on Friday isn't true.
Well, Attorney General Jeff Sessions is testifying before the Senate Intelligence Committee this week. What do we know about that?
Well, the details on this hearing are still being worked out. It's unclear if this address to the Intelligence Committee will be in public or private. We found out just yesterday that the Attorney General would not be attending a previously scheduled appropriations meeting at the Senate on Tuesday. Democrats had made it very clear, Democratic Senators Leahy and Al Franken, that they are curious as to why, during his confirmation hearing, Jeff Sessions misled them regarding his contacts with the Russian ambassador. They are suggesting that perhaps he committed perjury when he did not fully admit the number of meetings that he had. And they had made it clear that they would ask him about this during the appropriations meeting. So Jeff Sessions will now have his deputy, Rod Rosenstein, attend that meeting in his place, while Sessions will meet behind closed doors to discuss the reaction to James Comey's testimony and what his role in this story is. Remember, it was only after a Washington Post article reported that he had these additional meetings with the Russian ambassador that Sessions recused himself from the Russia investigation. So there are still many unanswered questions as far as how much he knew during the past few months.
Errol, there's some reporting today that the president's state visit to the UK may be put on hold. The Guardian says, quote, the U.S. president said he did not want to come if there were large-scale protests, and his remarks, in effect, put the visit on hold for some time. Give us some context here.
Well, there was no predetermined date set for President Trump's visit to the UK. Prime Minister Theresa May invited the president after she visited the White House after his inauguration. So there were no public details shared of this visit in the first place. And the White House is telling CBS News today that, quote, the president has tremendous respect for Prime Minister May. They, although, did not discuss what the details are. So from stateside, there's no confirmation that what is being reported in the UK is true. But what we know is that President Trump has publicly had a disagreement, an online fight, you could describe it, with London's mayor, Sadiq Khan, after the London Bridge attacks. The president seemed to mischaracterize Khan, saying that there's nothing to be alarmed about in reference to an increased police presence. The president on Twitter had criticized that, and then the London mayor had said that the country should not roll out the red carpet for the president. And Prime Minister May has just suffered a political loss in the UK and losing her party, losing seats in Parliament. So Prime Minister May is weakened. President Trump is fighting his own battles here stateside, but the White House hasn't confirmed any of those details anyway. The relationship does seem slightly frayed.
All right, Errol Barnett for us. Errol, thank you.